All right, welcome back, everybody. Ready for another deep dive?
Always ready.
Well, get ready, because today we're taking a look at something someone brought to our attention, and that is the connection, or possible connection, between the teachings of Jesus and the Atlantean Brotherhood.
Sounds fascinating.
Yeah, so we've got some excerpts here from this text called Exploring the Harmony Between the Teachings of the Atlantean Brotherhood and Jesus. And we're going to take a look and see if there really is any common ground, or if we're talking about apples and oranges.
Right. Two completely separate things.
Yeah, totally different philosophies. So, what jumps out at you right away from this text?
Well, one of the things that I noticed right off the bat is how much this text emphasizes Jesus' understanding of his own essence, right? As the Christ consciousness.
Okay.
And it frames this idea of Christ consciousness not as like a title that was unique to him or something like that, but rather as a state of spiritual realization that anyone can achieve.
So it's not so much about the historical figure of Jesus, but more about the potential within all of us.
Exactly. And the text even goes on to argue that the Atlantean teachings actually complement and even expand on what Jesus laid out rather than contradicting it.
Interesting. So what are some of the specific areas where those teachings overlap? I think, for some listeners, the idea of the Atlantean Brotherhood might be new to them. So what are we talking about here?
Well, you can think of the Atlantean Brotherhood as a sort of ancient mystery school that was very focused on spiritual development. And, when you look at the core principles of both the Atlantean teachings and the teachings of Jesus, you see a lot of similarities.
Okay, like what?
Like a big emphasis on the idea that we all have this inherent divinity within us, the power of love and compassion, and this constant striving for growth. That idea that we're always evolving.
Right. So both traditions are kind of pointing towards this idea of unity, this oneness. But then how do they address those labels and identities that we all get caught up in? Because the text mentions that as a key theme.
Yeah, that's a really crucial point. And it's especially relevant in today's world. We're
Yeah.
constantly bombarded with labels and categories, and it's so easy to get caught up in those differences.
Absolutely.
But the teachings of both Jesus and the Atlantean Brotherhood, they really push us to transcend those labels.
Yeah. To look beyond the surface. Yeah.
Exactly, to recognize the shared humanity that's underneath all of that.
That's easy to say, right?
Yeah.
But how can we actually apply that in our daily lives?
Yeah.
How do we move beyond just talking about it?
Well, I think one way is to try to approach every interaction that we have with another person as an opportunity to connect with their essence, with their soul, rather than just seeing them through the lens of all those labels that we attach to them.
Right. So it's almost like a shift in perspective.
It is a shift in perspective, and it's not easy. It takes effort. But you can see this in some of the things that Jesus says, like when he talks about loving your enemies.
Right.
That's a really radical idea.
Yeah.
To love someone who you consider to be your enemy.
Right, right.
That requires a complete transformation in the way that you see that person.
So you're not just talking about, liking someone or tolerating someone. You're talking about a genuine love.
Yeah.
Okay, so the text seemed to focus mostly on the harmony between these two traditions. But are there any potential points of tension, any places where their teachings might diverge or even clash?
Well, it is worth noting that the text that we're looking at, it's really focusing specifically on those shared themes.
Okay.
It's possible that if we dug deeper into like the specific practices or beliefs of these two traditions, we might find some nuances or even some disagreements.
Right, so this text is more like a starting point.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it. It's an introduction. It's not trying to be the definitive word on the subject.
Right. Okay, so the text concludes by saying that the Atlantean teachings kind of build on the foundation that Jesus laid, guiding us further along this path of self-realization. So is this almost like a next chapter in our spiritual evolution?
Yeah, you can definitely see it that way.
Okay, that's interesting.
And it really brings up the question for each of us, like what steps can we take to actively continue our own journey of spiritual growth?
That's a great question. So we've covered a lot here. This idea of the Atlantean Brotherhood and their teachings having a connection with those of Jesus, this emphasis on our inner divinity, and the challenge of transcending those labels that we often cling to. It's clear that this deep dive is really just a starting point for anyone who wants to explore these concepts further.
Absolutely. And for listeners who are interested in delving even deeper, the text actually mentions the name of the founder of the Atlantean Brotherhood, Waxira, and suggests that their writings might offer even more insight into this connection.
Okay, so there you have it. Another deep dive complete. Keep exploring, keep those questions coming, and we'll see you next time.
See you then.